Attachment, which is the third poison, is this idea that we know that we have to change and we do actually want to do something about it. We know what we've got to do. And so the key here is that we engage willpower or determination. So this is the point at which somebody who knows that they've got to lose weight, and I've been through this many times, goes on a diet. And I lost lots of weight through willpower. And the interesting thing about attachment and willpower is that in the majority of cases, it's not sustainable. And so if you haven't dealt with the cause of a lot of your behaviour, which is the story that we've talked about, or the narrative, that programming in our childhood, if we haven't dealt or managed with that, the fact is all we need is for a situation that sort of scratches the surface of our emotional well-being and our sense of worth or value. What happens is we revert back to our old survival patterns. So for example, in my narrative, it was around seeking pleasure. And so something happens, I've lost weight, I'm looking fabulous, an experience happens and it's too emotionally difficult for me to deal with, so I revert to old patterns of behaviour because those neural pathways are still there. Just that we've reverted or we've resorted to a new one doesn't mean that the old one completely disappears. And when push comes to shove, we find ourselves dealing with old patterns of behaviour. Just recently, my mother passed away, and dealing with the sadness of that, I was walking through Aldi and found myself reverting to an old pattern of behaviour, and that was I bought a packet of scorched almonds. I haven't bought a packet of scorched almonds in years, but it was this old pattern of behaviour that brought me back to a survival strategy, which was about comfort eating. So these things are in there, and invariably, no matter how much willpower we can exert, oftentimes the wheels come off and we find ourselves reverting to our old patterns of behaviour. So diet was a key one for me. In my business, I went and saw a business coach about developing my work, and he said to me, Russell, he said, you have so much product. He said, don't develop new product, just work with the ones that you've got. And I like the pleasure of developing new product. And so I found myself at one moment going, oh yeah, I can focus on this now. And all of a sudden I find myself reverting to my old behavior of developing new business product when I don't need to. I've got so much there to work with. And consequently, my reference earlier on to this becoming really focused in terms of a conscious decision to become really focused on the product that I have and to really work with value adding that and making that work and succeed in my life in terms of what I want to do in making a difference in the world. So take a moment to consider the behaviours, beliefs and attitudes that you have typically tried to be free of on many occasions, but they keep on reappearing. And also take a moment to consider, what would your life look like if you were free of those attachments? In other words, if you could make change that was sustainable. And so what I'm suggesting to you is that through the process of becoming more mindful, we have the capacity to circumvent the effects of ignorance, avoidance, and attachment, and that we can create change that is sustainable, that is easy, relatively speaking, to apply, and makes real differences in terms of the quality of our life, where inner peace, where love of self and love of others, where joy are a real part of everyday life, something that becomes the natural expression and replaces the discombobulation, the suffering, and all the things that we typically deal with. They can be replaced with love, peace, and joy.